In Conversation is a collection of interviews with fashion photographers, models, makeup artists and stylists, as they give an insight into the industry and talk about some of their most inspiring images.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for joining us. Uh,
Thanks for having me.
in Conversation, it's been set up basically as a chance for any kind of creatives in the fashion industry, like models, makeup artists, photographers, anything like that, to talk about talk about their work, give you a chance to explain your kind of background, and then some of the how you created some of the images that you've done. So we'll dive straight into the background first. So yeah, really kind of tell us about your background. How did you get started in modeling?
Okay, perfect. So, how I started in modeling was I was around 16 at the time. I was still living in like a small town in the middle of South Africa. So that's like 2 hours away from Joburg, very small-minded town. And then someone scouted me when I was in a mall in Johannesburg, told me, listen, want to sign you, blah, blah, blah. But I only officially started my career when I was finished with high school, came straight to Cape Town, and I've been in Cape Town for around 3 years now. And then as soon as I came to Cape Town, I just immediately started working. So been signed for around 5 years, but been working for around 3 years now.
Okay, cool. So did you kind of when you got signed over, had you like trained anywhere with like modeling? Was it just all kind of new to you and then you were just kind of like chucked into it?
Honestly, like when I got signed, I didn't really work a lot as I was still in like a small town. So it was a lot of like transports and everything, but there wasn't really any training involved. They kind of just throw you in the deep end. And then as you move along and start working, then you sort of like try and realize what the industry is about. And then you just teach yourself. I think I've always wanted to be a model, but as a lot of people don't necessarily know what the input is in modeling. They don't really know how to start or how to train themselves. So I always had the idea, but never fully knew how to realize it up until I actually came to Cape Town and fully got thrown into the deep end, into the industry, and then realized what it was all about.
Yeah, so what's the kind of the industry like out there?
The industry here is it's a lot of different things. It's an amalgamation of creativity in Cape Town. Cape Town, a lot of people don't realize that Cape Town is a very big model capital in South Africa. There is some work in Joburg, but Cape Town is the capital of modeling, and a bunch of agencies. We have a bunch of production companies here, so everyone is constantly shooting. Season starts about around, let's say, November up until April. So that's when it's the busiest. So people are shooting TV ads, fashion editorials, everything you can think of is right here in Cape Town.
Okay, so yeah, so do you find you're like constantly busy with it then, or do you get kind of down periods or anything like that?
You get down periods. It's usually in the winter period, so that's around from April up until like August, where it slows down a bit because in Cape Town and especially in South Africa, people love summer here. So we don't have a lot of like campaigns and editorials. So winter completely slows down. That's why most South Africans then go overseas so that they can just continue working, like London and Milan and etc.
Yeah, so that's what you do yourself as well. So you kind of come over. Um,
Yeah, I've been in London twice now. I first started traveling around last year. It was the first time I ever went overseas, and I was in London. And then this year around May up until July, I went to London again.
so how long do you normally spend when you visit? Do you kind of try and get if you're over here for quite a bit? Because it is, I mean, how long is the journey from?
Oh, the journey is a rough one, to be
Yeah,
honest. If it's a straight flight, it's around 11 hours.
right.
But if you like, have layovers and everything, it can take up until, I don't know, a day to get there. So I normally go for around like 3 months maximum around any other country. I've only been in the UK thus far, but I'm traveling next year around Feb to Milan. So that trip will probably take me around 12 hours to get there.
Hmm. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I thought if it's such a long journey, you want to spend a
Mm,
fair amount of time there to kind of make the most of it.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
do you have? You say you've got like Milan coming up. Do you have any favorites you want to do? Is that one of the favorites?
Yeah, it's definitely Milan has always been on the top of my list of traveling, especially when it came to my career. And we're planning on doing Fashion Week that side, so I would be ecstatic to be able to walk Milan Fashion Week and Paris Fashion Week as well. So we're planning on that. Hopefully, it does realize. So fingers crossed.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah. Well, I hope it goes well and you get it. So yeah, I'll keep my eyes peeled for that. Um,
Thanks.
so yeah, so I think we can jump into some of the images. So Yeah, the first one was going to bring up. You sent over was the A&E lookbook for the dual fall.
Yes.
So yeah, how long? First of all, I love this shoot.
Thank you.
Yeah, you sent over, and then I've kind of found like links for it, and I've kind of seen like the full feature. How long ago was it?
This was about a year ago. I think it was my last job for my first trip in the UK, and I was absolutely like beyond myself when I realized I booked it. And we shot in Ascot at this lovely castle. It was like very foresty and everything, so it was amazing. And coincidentally, the director was South African as well.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so you got that connection.
First,
Yeah,
South Africans sees each other, we're like, hey.
yeah, it makes it easier.
Yeah.
Yeah, the location looks amazing. What was it a big team for something like that?
It was a massive team, honestly. So we had, I think, about like 5 stylists on set, and then we had like 3 makeup artists. We had the DOP, creative director, a bunch of different people, also on video and videography as well, shooting. So it was quite a big team, but it was lovely because when we were shooting, everyone had their set places where they need to be. So it wasn't where it necessarily goes into a very, chaotic set. It was extremely like set, and everyone knew what they were doing, so it made it just amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of like sounds like a sort of movie set or something, like a film set, very similar. Such a big team, everyone has their kind of identities. Had you like done anything like shot anything like that before that big? And do you find something like that quite overwhelming to have like such a big team?
Honestly, I think it was the biggest job I've ever done, considering name brands, etc. So when I realized I booked a Dior lookbook, I think it only set in after I left the UK. I was like, hey, I worked for Dior, which was amazing. And then the magazine came out and was even better. In regards to being anxious and everything towards it, I think I switched my brain off and then immediately go into model mode and professional mode, hence why it only hit me afterwards. So with that, it was an amazing shoot, very like down to earth, and especially with the South African director. And with South Africans, we have a big camaraderie thing going on. So as soon as we see each other, it's immediate like friend type of situation. So that made it all the better.
Yeah, I suppose something like that. It helps situation, helps put you at ease as well. Did you have any what were the outfits like to wear? Was there any like favorite outfits you had that you liked?
I think the outfits, I mean, all of them were amazing. It was this very like corset type situation, very Victorian almost. But my favorite outfit was probably this dress that looked like chainmail. So it had this silver type of situation that you put over like this tiny it was almost like a jersey that also looked like chainmail, but it was a very Joan of Arc moment, especially since I still had like the very straight cut bob and everything. So it reminded me of a Joan of Arc-esque situation.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I had a look through, and I think you mentioned about like with the kind of the corset and the checkered dress as well, and I think that was one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's also one of my favorites actually.
Yeah, it looked like an amazing shoot. So yeah, like you say, I think it's one of those things afterwards it kind of hits you and you go, whoa, I've done something like that. But yeah, let's go into the second image, which is more of like the beauty one. So this was for the NARS makeup shoot.
Yes. So I shot with Ian when I was also in London for my first trip, and it was actually planned as a test shoot with a photographer, and we were trying to figure out what we were going to do like theme wise and everything. And we had like this very weird watery backdrop for the first initial shoot, and it kind of looked like an 80s shoot, like an 80s yearbook. So we completely scrapped that, and then we got the NARS out, and NARS was like, okay, well, we'll definitely be into this. And then it was a NARS campaign.
Yeah, was it so when you say like you kind of stripped out the idea and kind of went with that, was that while you were there you kind of did that there?
Yes. So as I arrived at the photographer's place, we had the initial idea of like the water thing. I think the initial idea was to have like water dripping down and everything, but then the whole 80s yearbook situation happened with the background, so we just scrapped everything, and then it turned into that amazing shot.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a good shot to get when, like you say, you kind of turn up with and then the idea kind of changes on the day. Is that, yeah? How does that fit? Like, I'm guessing, is that just kind of something that's you just go with the flow? Is if the ideas get changes, kind of you have to kind of work with it?
Yeah, definitely. I think most of the time, especially when it comes to creatives, you have the set plan that you want to follow, but then in the end, if it doesn't work out, you have the choice of either pushing it into working or completely scrapping that and changing into a different direction. And I think that's one of the things creatives struggle with the most, is to try and scrap an idea and completely think of something else. And usually out of the most unplanned, ill-prepared things, the best shots come out of that. For example, like this shot, we were in no way thinking of the shot, and it was very plain and simple, you know, with blue eye and the completely like sleek hair with the plain background, and it just came out like that.
Yeah, what do you think? What do you think that is? Do you think that's something where you just kind of, because you're kind of going with it on the moment? And because I find often, even when I'm shooting as well, a bit, I really try and struggle with sometimes. It's a bit when you get like a mood board or something like that, and it's very kind of, you end up like sticking to it a bit too rigid.
Yeah.
With something like that, if it's kind of something that's suddenly changed on the day, but do you find that you kind of make it your own thing, really?
I think so. I think with rigidity and creativity, a lot of people that are left brain and creative kind of stick to the briefs and everything. And I think that kind of takes the creativity away out of it. And when you get to that point where you have to either completely fix something or change something, I think that's the test that most creatives face, is to realize that you can actually trust your own instinct when it comes to that, even if it's a quick thing, changing something, instead of sticking to a brief and the references that you have, trying to stray away from that, and also trusting yourself in that process to know that whatever your creative instincts are, is to stick with that and then see where it takes you.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. Like I say, it's something on my side I've kind of noticed as well. Like sometimes I kind of clock it, and it's because you're also wanting to make your own style and do your own kind of thing. So it's very important to have influences, but not copy too much.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you prefer with beauty shoots? Do you prefer beauty shoots, or do you not really have a preference, or do you really like doing them?
Honestly, with my career and the paths it's taken, when I first started out, you know, I had the bob and everything, and completely changed that look from, like, I had really long hair, it was very plain and everything, and then immediately went into the bob and the fringe. And then with that, and the Cape Town market especially, Cape Town is very commercial, so it's a lot of commercial shoots, beauty shoots, etc. So of course, a lot of agencies try and push you into that direction, and it was very successful. My career has been very successful in the whole commercial beauty shoot range. But as I'm also getting older and more experienced in my career, as well as changing my look like I did right now and changing agencies, we're trying to move into a different direction that's more high fashion and a bit more editorial as well. So it is great to see that, because as a model, you're supposed to be a chameleon, in my personal opinion. So if you can do beauty and commercial, but you can also do high fashion and more non-traditional fashion stories, I think that's what makes you a great model. And that's why I'm trying to push myself into every direction possible.
Yeah, it's being versatile and kind of showing a range of things, basically. Yeah. Well, actually, one of my next questions, you kind of touched on it there. I was going to mention, like, looking through your portfolio, I've seen you've had a variety of looks with your hairstyling. Would you say, would you say your hair is like one of your kind of favorite things with the look? Is that something you like to kind of change for each kind of shoot?
I love changing my hair. I know a lot of female models are very attached to their hair. I know a lot of people are attached to their hair regardless. But what I realized is, whenever I have the chance to change my look or try something different, I immediately jump on that. Especially when I came back from the UK, my agent was like, listen, we're going to change your look completely, morph you into something else. And as soon as I heard that, I was very ecstatic about that. I think within the first week when I arrived back in Cape Town, we immediately cut my hair, started shooting, and it's probably one of my favorite looks up to all the looks I've had.
Yeah, how did it feel when you got it cut?
Oh, it was amazing. That initial feeling of just cutting all of your hair off, and just, I know hair holds a lot of like different memories, and with London and all the things I've experienced in this market, and especially changing my career to something else, cutting all of that was kind of representative of leaving certain things behind and starting new. So it was just an amazing feeling, just seeing all the hair falling off.
Yeah. Did it give you a bit more freedom on shoots? Like say just looking through the kind of the different looks you've had with the hair. Has the short hair kind of given that freedom to kind of have more variety?
It actually has. You know, a lot of people have this misconception of short hair that it completely changes the way you either dress or the way that clothes look on you. But what I've personally experienced is that short hair is very easy to manage, first of all. And most of the clothes that I've just thrown in the back of my cupboard actually look better on me than the bob, since it kind of closed my face off, and having my face completely exposed also gives myself a new sense of newfound confidence, because I know a lot of people are very scared to cut their hair off due to certain stereotypes as well as like certain looks and everything. But it completely just like opened something new inside myself as a model as well.
Well, that's good to hear. Again, it's good that it's aided your career, and it's actually really helped as well. When you're on shoots, do you have any preferences? Anything, say for example, direction from photographers? Do you like quite a lot of that, or does it just depend? Each shoot is just different?
Honestly, it depends on each shoot, but I think mainly when it comes to the relationship between a photographer and a model, it's a 50-50. You know, when you have proper communication with a photographer, for example, it just eases into everything. So the photographer then picks up on your natural poses and the way you naturally work, and then the model also picks up on the way the photographer works. Like, for example, some photographers like static models, where other photographers like models that completely move. So when you can clock that really quickly in each other, I think that's a great way in order to communicate non-verbally on a set. So my preference really isn't, you know, specific, as long as the photographer is willing to give some direction, but also not completely go into that path where it's a set way of, you know, working with someone because they're used to having certain concepts, like circling back to our conversation earlier, where, you know, there's a rigidity in the references and the ideas that the person has.
Yeah, is that something, would you, I mean, at the end I was going to kind of ask a little bit of advice you'd give of models, but is that something you would kind of say, something to in yourself to have that versatility about, again, you're working with different people, to be able to adapt?
Yes, definitely. I think when it comes to models, and the advice I have for models that are starting is, a lot of models claim that they don't know how to pose or don't know how to work with certain people on a set. And I know it's very daunting to have this person doing that and this person faffing on your face, and it's a bunch of things happening all at once. But what it comes down to is whether you're wearing something that you're not typically inclined to wear, you have a certain character that you're giving. It's not you're embodying a character. So whatever that character is, you're embodying that. And then as well with, you know, you have so many different people that you're working on with a daily. So it's this different photographer, that different photographer. So if you're chameleon like, you can socialize with any people, you know how to socialize. I think that's like 70% of the whole modeling game, is just knowing how to communicate and pick up on different social cues.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think, let's say from the modeling point of view, you're there like with the whole team as well, but you're there, you're kind of selling the clothing or whatever it is you're wearing. So yeah, you need to be able to adapt and kind of show that off to the best of its ability. And then the same with the team as well. I think that's something, because it's also big in the industry as well. It's like word of mouth and everything like that. And if you're easy to work with, if you're versatile, all those kind of things, it's stuff that you'll get booked again, basically. So
exactly. There's a lot of different things happening. You have to think of being a socialite as well as being polite, but also standing your ground, as well as putting up this character, but also still putting yourself into that character. So it's a lot of different things that might seem like they're clashing or they're paradoxical, but at the same time, if you know how to weave yourself through both of the sides of the equilibrium, then you're set.
Yeah, I think it's really good advice. Do you have any music you like on shoots? A certain type? Because I'll find when I'm shooting, there is a big thing where I'm like, I'll try and put on what the model wants. So yeah, is there anything that you've got a certain type of music that you like?
Honestly, like my taste in music is very wide. I don't know, a lot of people say that, but I listen from 80s new wave up until funk music. So it's a completely different thing. So whatever someone puts on, I just try to embody that. Or if it doesn't really work with the vibe of the shoot, I just put on like a mental little radio and just continue doing that.
Right, yeah. Okay, let's move on to the third image. This was the black and white image. I think this might be on your Instagram profile as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, who was the photographer on this one?
This is the one with the short hair and like the denim, right?
Yes, that's it. The denim wrapped around. Yeah.
So that's my agent and mentor, Fani Nell. He's been in the industry for 30 years and he's one of my favorite people on this planet, probably. So that was one of the first shoots we did when I recently got signed with him. So I immediately changed agencies as soon as I went to London, back in Cape Town. And then he just kind of took me under his wing and then we went from there. Yeah.
So yeah, so this was, so it's for the, so it's kind of like a test for the agency for the portfolio.
Yes. So we needed pictures of the new hair and everything. So we just set up a bunch of denim because Fani constantly has like a bunch of clothes that he just cuts up whenever he feels like it. And then he just threw on a bunch of like denim skirts and jackets on me for the portfolio. And then those pictures came out. Yeah.
Yeah, it looked really cool. I mean, I think I've seen one of the wider images as well where you can see all like the denim wrapped around everything.
Yeah.
Is that something you just kind of turned up and then the photographer was like given the direction, being like, this is how we're going to do it?
Yeah. So Fani is one of those creatives where he's so immersed in his work that he doesn't really have a specific idea in mind. He just kind of looks around, has kind of an image in his head that he conjured up by himself, and then throws on whatever he feels like and then creates magic. I think Fani is probably also one of my favorite photographers in Cape Town.
Have you shot together on various occasions as well? Was it just this shoot?
Yeah, so he's my mentor and agent as well. He has an agreement with my mother agency, Boss Models in Cape Town. So he's the personal director, where Boss Models just manages my career in Cape Town as well as signing me overseas, etc.
Okay. Yeah, so this was, like you say, I think this was, you say this was because you had the hair change. I think we've kind of touched on it previously, but I think, did you say like what was the kind of the reasoning behind the hair change?
With the hair change, I was still in the UK with my previous mother agent in Cape Town, and then immediately moved to Boss Models and Fani, discovered by Fani. So when I went to London, I had my season there, came back, changed agencies, and then they were like, okay, well, we need something different. You know, I've had the bob for at least a year and a half now, and they really wanted to push me forward as not a new girl per se, but Megan revamped, rather than just Megan with the bob onto a next agency, but still the same girl. And I think that was probably one of the best ideas that they've had, because it's completely changed my career in Cape Town, and it's only been like 3 months already.
Did you find that so when you get something like that done, is it like a complete, like with the portfolio, like we need whole new images, revamp the portfolio, is that something that's easy to do, or does it just take a bit of time to kind of to build that up?
I mean, it takes a bit of time, but at the same time, if you have a team that's willing to push you forward as quick as possible and also make it work, then it goes by much quicker than normal. And if you have someone that's very invested in your career personally, as well as, you know, just knowing what to do with you in general, then I think it goes much quicker. So as soon as I came back, like within a week or two, we started shooting, cut the hair, started thinking of new agencies overseas, kind of revamp my career and the path that we want to take. So I think it's taken about like 2-3 months to probably get there, but I've already been working a bunch since I've changed the hair.
That's good. Yeah, so yeah, it's worked basically. It's brought
yeah, it has.
Yeah.
I was a bit nervous about it in the beginning because there's no one in the industry currently that's had a pixie cut or a shot with a pixie cut in Cape Town, like from what I've seen. So as soon as I cut it, it was like, oh my gosh, am I gonna work, or has this completely ruined my career?
Yeah, it was a dive into the deep end, but yeah, it's worked. What are the advantages of like doing kind of, do you like test regularly, or is it just mostly just like the sort of the paid work, or do you still test every now and again? And if so, what are the advantages of that?
I think so mainly I have an extremely busy schedule in Cape Town, especially now since season has like officially started with bangs. So I'm constantly busy working and, you know, shooting campaigns, etc. But with my agent, he constantly plans ahead for shoots, like test shoots, so that I have extra pictures for my book. And then when it comes to test shoots with different photographers, my Boss Models also like plans that for me. If a different photographer comes into the Cape Town industry, like from a different country or whatever, or someone approaches the agency personally to ask to ask me to shoot with them. And I think the advantage of test shoots is it's not necessarily, you don't get paid for test shoots, so it's not an exchange where it's monetary. But at the same time, what I usually ask myself, is it good for the book or is it good for the bank? So if it's not good for the bank, it should be good for the book. And if the photographer isn't in line with your market and your style, then it's not good for either. So you should really try and check that. And also, if people don't necessarily take advantage of the fact that it's a test shoot, because a lot of photographers do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's another good bit of advice as well. And I think definitely that, like, if it's something that's beneficial to the portfolio, then do it. But yeah, I like that. If it's good for the book, if it's good for the bank, that's a good yeah. Going through some more of your work, I noticed that you've done quite a bit of video work as well. As the photographer shoots, do you have a preference? Do you prefer photography, like, or is video? Is it quite something nice and different every now and again?
Yeah, I think with video and TVC, I've done a couple of TVCs in my life. I've worked for Pepsi and for Toyota as well. Like, I've done a couple of ads for them. I think it's very different compared to like stills and everything, and they're exciting in their own way. I think with TVC, it's a bit more daunting because either you have lines that you have to say, or if it's a silent roll, then it's still like you are on a video. It's very different compared to stills where they're static and they're there. Videos are very movement wise, and it's like I said, it's very daunting in a different way.
Have you had a favorite place you've shot in anywhere?
Favorite place I've shot in was probably the Dior one in Ascot, because I've never seen like the official castles in the UK. And then there's a specific spot in Cape Town where everyone shoots every single ad you can possibly think of. It's called Inyoni. And it's basically, this guy was a model in the industry like a couple of years ago. And then he bought this big piece of land and put on like a different types of sets. So there's like a Grecian set, and then there's a safari set and a beach set. So whenever we're there, you constantly see the different sets, and it's like super exciting to see, even if people constantly use it.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, so it's got a few different things. Are they all like kind of set up as it is, or is it like one time it's the safari set, one time, or is it all in different?
No, it's kind of like set up. So when you arrive, like, you can see the white walls of the Grecian set that completely will give you cataracts if you're there for longer than like 8 I almost said years, 8 hours. And then the safari one, sometimes it has animals roaming around, so you can see like little springbokkie or some situation going on there. And then there's like this 1920s garage diner situation, which is very like cool and rustic, that a lot of people use as well.
Oh, that sounds great. Yeah, that's a lot. Again, have something like that where you can get quite a bit of variety there as well.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll go on to the the last few images like 4, 5, and 6 were for the brand, your brand shoot.
Yes.
So first of all, like, introduce it. What's the brand? Tell us about it.
Okay, so my brand is called Nutmeg Brand Apparel, and it completely morphed into something that I never thought would happen. I'm wearing one of my pieces right now. I was in London for the first month, and it was quite quiet. And because I'm a creative person, so I've always been an artist, loved painting and drawing, etc. I decided I needed to keep my ADHD brain busy, or I will not make it in this city, especially London being as booming and bright and busy as it is, and also extremely expensive for a third world country person. So when I first started crocheting, I got like a bunch of pieces of wool, absolutely messed everything up, and then just continued teaching myself. And I realized, oh, I have like a whole new wardrobe situation going on, and my luggage is very heavy. I realized, okay, well, this can turn into something where I can give back to other people rather than just giving myself a new wardrobe. And so when I came back, I taught myself how to work with different mediums as well, different types, different styles, and then took wind and then started my business.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great thing to have that, like, to have your own kind of, like, your vision, your own business with the design process. With the design process, talk us through that. Is it you who designs all the pieces?
Yes, so I completely design everything, hand make everything completely by myself. Yeah.
And what is it about with knitwear? What is it about that kind of attracts you so much to it?
I think the initial attraction was a new type of medium that I've never explored before, which was quite daunting at first. And also at the same time, that need of wanting to make my own clothes and be more sustainable rather than buying fast fashion. And I didn't have a sewing machine at the time. I didn't know how to use a sewing machine. So I thought, okay, well, wool and a crochet hook would be perfect. And then I started.
And yes, well, the images we've got are from the shoot. I think all three, yeah, from it. How did that first shoot go?
Oh, it was amazing. Finally being behind the set and behind the scenes rather than just being the subject of the shoot was also kind of a freeing situation and a freeing thing that I've never done before in my life. I got my photographer friend, Laura Breeden, come to shoot the whole shoot for me. So, and then I got the makeup artist, which is also she doesn't crochet, she knits. So she also had like a bunch of knit pieces that I also incorporated in the shoot and then used two of my model friends, Asanda and Zoe, for the shoot. So it was completely a very tight-knit group of people that, you know, I've been in the industry with before and I've known for a while. So finally being behind that and actually planning everything was also something I've never done before. So it was really daunting at first. And then, you know, the self-doubt creeps in. You don't know how it's going to go. Is it going to be a complete like bomb, or is it going to be fine? You know, so a lot of that mulling over and planning everything was really freeing, but also extremely difficult.
Well, yeah, I mean, for the first, I mean, it's come out great. I mean, I love, like, I mean, the one image I've got here is the where you've got your foot towards the camera, that like really low angle. So yeah, I mean, the photography is great in it. Was it something? Was it? How did you find that kind of like? Were you jumping between like looking at the images and then jumping back onto set?
So yeah, I was completely like jumping in between styling and then looking at the images, trying to get my own makeup done. Also directing the models of what I wanted, helping the photographer. So I was completely jumping forward and everything. And I think the shoot took about like 3 hours in total. We had 4 hours for the studio, and then we completely just like hurried through it, and then the images came out.
Yeah, I mean, how do you see what do you see for the vision of the brand? Where do you see it going, or is it at the moment just kind of just see how it goes? It's like your own kind of project.
I think it's a mix of both. So what I've realized in Cape Town, especially, Cape Town is a very creative, kind of homegrown situation where people are straying away from fast fashion and like, you know, very big brand corporate situations. So anyone in Cape Town loves handmade, creative, individualistic. And what I've realized also with the patterns that I've made is it's something that people see, well, people that aren't in the modeling industry see the modeling industry as this very far away concept. And so taking that and bringing it to people in the form of fashion that's also handmade and sustainable, as well as made for modern people, trying to make the stereotype of crochet being very kitchen granny like, making it cool for more modern Gen Z, but also reminiscent of the club kid situation, is an amalgamation of both old and new, and then giving it to people that have this faraway concept of the modeling industry as it's made by a model for everyone.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I'll be keeping on it. I've like say I've followed it and I've been keeping on the brand. So yeah, I'd love to see kind of how it develops. We've got about 5 minutes left on the time as well, so it's good, Com, actually, because I've just got a couple more questions just to finish off. So yeah, just to kind of looking towards the future, have you got any sort of themes or anything you'd like to shoot in future? Any brands or themes or anything like that you'd like to shoot?
In regards to my own brand, or in general as a model?
In general, yeah, I think in general.
In general, as my career is currently going into the more Milan high fashion Paris scene, I'm hoping to walk for a couple of high brands, you know, kind of affirming that, trying to see where my foot is in the high fashion industry, as I've never explored that before. So trying to see where I fit in that, I think, is the main thing, you know, of my agenda at the moment. So yeah, not any brands in particular, whichever manages to throw itself in my direction, I would be very happy about that.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I'll be keeping an eye on that as well. Like I've seen on some of your stories about some of the catwalk shows and everything. So hoping that goes okay. And one more, yeah, last question. We've touched on it a little bit, but any advice you've got for any aspiring models, anyone starting out?
My advice, I would say, is try not to be too hard on yourself. I think a lot of different people have these very high expectations of themselves that I've had on myself as well. And if you try and put yourself in a certain mold, you will completely die off any of your creativity that you have. But as well as, you know, being malleable, being a chameleon, being a socialite, trying to navigate all of that is very, it's a headache. You know, you have so many different things to think of and take care of, but at the same time you need to put your foot down in certain situations where you need to say, this is not in line with my brand, this is not in line with my own personal idea of who I am and what I represent. And then I think another piece of advice is you need to want it, you don't want to need it. I think that was the advice that completely changed it for me, is when you're so desperate for something to work, you repel that completely in your life because you're putting out an energy that's not meant for you. You need to want it. So if you want it and you're putting out all the work and putting in all the work that you need, it will eventually come to you. But trying to force something that's not meant for you, even if you can't see it in the long run, will definitely not work out.
Great. Well, it's good advice, and like I say, I think throughout the chat, there's been quite a few times you've like give some good advice, and I think with the magazine, that's one of the things. I think it's trying to kind of push that as well, of like anyone starting out or anyone studying it or anything like that, if they can kind of gather any bits of advice. So thanks so much for like the words of wisdom. And yeah, thank you so much for spending the time to do the chat.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been amazing, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. And like I say, I've liked everything, like seeing what you've shot so far and stuff with the brand as well. And I think having that you've started up, so I'll be kind of keeping a close eye on it and hoping it all goes okay.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Megan. Thank you. Have a nice week.
Have a lovely day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.